Okay, I am ready to have a conversation with a young woman who is career intense, really. You are chasing a career as a coloratura opera singer in Europe. I'm speaking with coloratura soprano Juliet Wallace. We're going to be discussing, well, we're going to have a little overview about the backstory of your life. Well, I don't dare ask your age. Let's just say that you are a young professional musician. You are in Prague at the moment, studying at the Conservatoire in Prague, the music conservatoire then. Uh, and what we're going to be talking about and focusing on is an incredible GoFundMe project that you're raising money for. Hello, everyone. Get your credit cards out. GoFundMe, among other fundraising projects, is so wonderful. And for young artists, for everybody, for people putting together CDs, it's just fabulous to help bring more people together to help fund worthy activities. In this case, we're talking about your summer intensive this June, mid-June, in Berlin with Berlin Opera Academy, Emerging Artist Studio, a month of intensive training that is really a step beyond just let's get together and see if we can produce a little scene. It's about how do you behave as a professional. You're going to tell us all about this. We're talking about an intensive training that is conditioning you for a career in Europe. Juliet Wallace, how did it all begin? You know, I happen to have an inside track on your family a little bit, and I know that there are quite a lot of musical people in your extended family. What happened? When did that moment come? At what age when you said, music, and then you said, maybe singing?
Well, really, I said, maybe singing before I said, maybe music. It was a bit strange, as you know, I come from a very musical family. So my parents are both music teachers, and my extended family are all musicians as well. So it's a very, very musical family. Um, and I kind of always hated that because everyone sort of kind of expected me to play the piano or play the clarinet or play the violin, all of which I did do at one point. Um, but we were taken to a stage school called Stagecoach every Saturday, and we were given the opportunity to sing, dance, and act. It was more of a musical theatre type training, and I loved it. I had so much fun every Saturday. It was absolutely the highlight of my week. So that's where it came from, really. It
This was
wasn't
in the
so much,
UK. This was in the UK,
this
right?
was in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a half an hour drive away from our house, which I think 7 years old was when I started, and my younger brother and sister were five. Um, so it seemed like years away when we were in the car trying to drive every Saturday to this stage school. But every term or semester, we would put on a musical, and I just had the most fun in the world. But the singing came as a byproduct of acting. So it was the acting and the being characters and putting on shows and being on stage that got me into singing, really. It was never, I want to, so I'm an instrument. It was never like that. It was always acting first.
Yes, that makes perfect sense, especially with musical theater, with music theater. And by the way, this is the Judy Garland story. Did you put on any shows in the backyard? What?
We did actually, yeah. My brother is a very talented special effects animator, so he had a camera and we filmed a lot of things. So yeah, no, we did a lot of shows um, that are all on camera somewhere, God forbid. But yes,
I'm going to speak to
yeah,
your
lots of
uncle
shows in the background.
about some contraband videos.
Please.
Let's talk.
But yeah,
Let's talk a little bit. You know, you're currently at the Conservatoire in Prague. What about
yeah.
how did you cross the channel? You know what I mean? What at what point did you say, "Get me there instead of here"?
Yeah, so when I was, I think, 12 years old, my mum got a job at Junior Trinity Conservatoire of Music and Dance, which is sort of in the southeast of London.
It's at the
Um,
old Royal Naval
yes,
College.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful building. And because she had a job there, we all auditioned as well to go to the school. But I never auditioned as a singer. And in fact, I was really angry with my parents for taking me out of drama school because I wanted to be an actor. So I was furious that they were taking me to some music school because they wanted me to be a musician because they're musicians. I was furious. And 12, so right on the age where I could still have a proper temper tantrum. Um, so I was really angry about this, and I never auditioned as a singer. I went to Trinity as a first study clarinetist, second study violinist, and third study pianist.
And you hated all
But
three.
because well, yeah. No, I love playing the clarinet. I don't anymore, but I loved playing the clarinet. I really, really did.
I have no
But
idea
I was never,
why, because I'm a former clarinetist and I could not wait to get rid of that instrument and become a conductor. Please go ahead. By the way, you know that we spoke. You know that I went to Trinity College of Music when it was in the city, in a horrible, grungy
yes.
old building. Now they're at the gorgeous Royal Naval Academy. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's so beautiful there. And because Trinity is such an amazing institution where it works in such different styles, so you don't just learn music by sight reading and then you practice and then you play it properly. It's sometimes you'll listen to things and learn things by rote or stand up and do a rehearsal. We had that a lot. We had to stand and Alexander technique and lots of different things. So we were all, every student was put in an equal voice choir when they first arrived, usually before the boys' voices broke. So everyone was in uh, this choir basically, and one day the choir mistress, this amazing woman called Simona Bard, I will never forget her. She noticed that I was louder than everyone else in the choir and gave me a solo for the next concert. And during a rehearsal for the concert, I think it was on the day of the concert actually, in Greenwich Chapel, which again is a beautiful building. Um, the head of Junior Trinity at the time, Marion Friend, came up to me and said, "Why didn't you tell me you could sing?" And I said, "I didn't know I could. I was just loud. It didn't know it actually sounded nice." Um, and she said, "Who's your singing teacher?" And I said, I don't, parents don't want me to be a singer. They were very clear about that. They did not want me to be a singer. They didn't want me to have singing lessons. And she said, "Well, I'm your mum's boss," because my mum now teaches at Trinity. She said, "So I'm going to get you singing lessons starting next year." So that's how it started, really. It was never an intention. It was basically just being loud and wanting to be on stage. And I just got louder.
and
Kind of
also
how.
and also reaching that crucial age of 12 when you are in a state of complete rebellion, I now understand
Yep.
totally, against your parents. And who saves you? Your mom's
Yeah.
boss. I
Yeah.
mean,
It was great.
you must have had a moment, an epiphany when you said, "Ah, she will no, my mom will no longer be able to question this one." That's
I was like, I know exactly. If she ever disagrees with me again, I can just take it straight to Marion Friend, who will overrule the decision.
There you go. Let's talk a little bit now about the transition from Trinity, which is a
Yeah.
much more open environment. It sounds like a much more experimental environment, certainly these
Yeah.
days. And all of how did you make that crossing to Prague, if you will? And what's what was it,
Yeah.
a shock, culture shock? The difference in training, or what?
Yeah, the training here is amazing. So I have never studied music full time. I did my bachelor's degree in English literature. So when I left Trinity at 18, we spoke a lot, me and my parents, about should I do music? Should I do English? Should I try and find a mix of the two? I know in America you're great at sort of having majors and minors and different modules in different things. In England, it's not always exactly the same. It's kind of you pick your subject and you stick to it, which was really hard for me. but I didn't feel ready to go to conservatoire at the age of 18. I think a lot of singers struggle with this, where you are kind of still cooking at 18, you're not done yet. So I went to King's College London, which is a university with a fabulous music department. It was incredible. So I got to perform all the way through my literature degree, which was amazing. I probably had more performing opportunities than some of the undergraduates at conservatoires, which are incredible institutions, but they focus so much on technique and making sure that everything is okay that maybe you don't get as many performing opportunities. In my time at King's, I think I put on 12 different shows, and I did Shakespeare, I did uh, what else? Musical theatre. I directed stuff, I wrote stuff, and then I performed my first full operas there as well. So it really was an incredible experience. But during my second year, because my degree was mostly coursework based of reading books and writing essays, we finished the second year in the May, and then I didn't have to go back until September. And I thought, well, that's a long time to wait and be bored and do nothing. So I booked a one-way ticket to Berlin, and traveled around Central Europe for 2 months, and somehow ended up in Prague, and somehow ended up having lunch with one of the producers of the National Opera, who said, "Oh, yes, you should meet my friend who's the vice president of the conservatoire here." So I met with this woman called Naomi, and she said, "Okay, you're a singer. You should meet with our very best singing teacher, Helena Kalpova, who she retired a few years ago, the most incredible dramatic soprano, very famous for things like Rusalka, Yanufa, Katya Kabanova." And I had on that same day a sort of 15-minute consultation lesson with Helena, who then at the end of it said, "Yeah, great, okay, I'll see you in September." And I was kind of taken aback because I said, "Oh, I've got one more year of my undergraduate degree to do in England." And she was like, "Okay, here the year after then." So I did. I left King's in July 2017, and I moved to Prague in the following September. And I have lived there.
Let me just explain to everyone, we're having a little bit of delay in terms of the reception. It happens with Skype and Wi-Fi and all of that. I hope everyone will understand that and get past these little bits of skips and so on, because your conversation is fabulous, and I simply want to congratulate. Okay, everybody, you know now that I am a very long time friend with Duncan Wallace, your uncle, Juliet,
Yeah.
and I just want to, based on what you have just told me, I just want to tell you that there is something about the Wallace family which also involves getting up and going. It's just like, oh, okay, I've got nothing to do, I'm bored. How about Berlin? You know, it's just Duncan is exactly the same way, world traveler, and you know, your family, your extended family. It's so wonderful. But also, I think you've just described, although the British system is lovely and marvelous and wonderful, still a little bit, I don't know, square.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's it's really hard because at school, I I assume it's very similar in America, but definitely in Britain, we're told you have to be good at everything. You know, you must get top marks in maths and science and English, and also learn a language, and then play hockey for the country, and then play Beethoven's second piano concerto, and do all of this at the same time and still maintain a social life. You can't do it really. And then suddenly at university, it's no, forget all of that. You must do this one thing. And I tried to go to a place, and King's allowed me to do that. I tried to find an institution that allowed me to keep a few doors open that might have closed if I'd gone to conservatoire.
but it worked out. You are now happily ensconced in Prague. Uh,
Yeah.
how how is your Czech, dare I ask?
Ah.
We've had this talk actually.
I can say one sentence very, very confidently, which is Dám si černý čaj s mlíkem, prosím, which, true to my British heritage, means can I have a black tea with a bit of milk, please?
Exactly. Wonderful. Very important for Brits.
Oh,
By the
it's
way,
very important.
I'm a tea drinker since way before I went to England. But I would, when I was a student there, I'll just be brief, anecdote time. Come on, let's have fun. When I was a student in London, I, because I, for some strange reason, drank no doubt very much weaker black tea in America. They're so awful at making tea. They're horrible. I insisted for at least the first year on drinking my British tea black. And it's a
Yeah,
wonder my teeth didn't fall out because, as you know, British black tea will peel the flesh off the back of your tongue if you don't dilute it with
yeah,
butter and milk. Anyway, okay.
it's strong.
Can I get at you've kind of mentioned a bit, but I want to let's sort of overlook your performance experience thus
Yeah,
far, and I'm seeing some wonderful things. I mean, some, recent operatic credits, title role Cendrillon, Massenet at the Festival de Valois. I mean,
yeah,
we're not talking about the backyard of somebody's house here, and also I'm so amazed. I adore Bernstein's Candide. I think it's a major,
yes,
major work.
yes,
Musically, at very least, as for
yeah,
some reason the story doesn't seem to quite hold together, or so they say. But anyway, Kunigunda. That's I mean, Magic Flute, the Queen of the Night. Give me an overview
yeah.
of what you've accomplished, if you will, in terms of how you feel about your voice and where you want to go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I found it quite difficult finding my register, my
Mm.
fach, because I have quite a big range that spans about 3 octaves that I'm happy to perform. And on a good day, it goes a bit beyond that, but never on stage. But um, yeah, it was difficult at first because I didn't really know what that what that meant.
Mm.
So the first full operatic role I ever did was Cherubino in The Marriage of Figaro. Um, and I auditioned specifically for that role at university because I loved the character so much. I thought he's absolutely the best character in that opera. He's absolutely the one that you want to laugh at. And I love performing comedy. I find it so much fun to do. And it's instant gratification because you know if you're funny because the audience will laugh. Whereas if you're trying to get something heartfelt, you can't hear the crying as much unless you've got someone really uncomfortable with a tissue going that doesn't usually happen, not in Britain anyway. um, so yeah, I love doing comedy, and that was where I started. And then I did the Cendrillon, and I thought I was becoming a mezzo, but during rehearsals for Figaro, it gets obviously rains a lot in Britain, and I got a really bad cold that developed into a chest infection, quite a serious chest infection. So I went to the doctor, and they didn't want to treat it because of antibiotics and becoming resistant. So I then went traveling around Europe, still having not treated this. I then went to France to do Cinderella, still hadn't treated this. And it got to the summer, and I'd been living with this awful cough for about 6 to 8 months, and it spread all over my body to my legs, and I lost the ability to walk. It's
Oh my
something
God.
called erythema nodosum, but they told me it could be anything from lung cancer to tuberculosis, and I would never sing again. That's the information I was given.
I love doctors.
Yeah,
they're so like matter of when you can get them to tell you anything at all. They
yeah,
tell you that, oh well, it's lung disease, death by tuberculosis, and of course you'll never sing again.
yeah.
Now
You'll never have a
that's
career as an opera singer.
mm.
Physically, you don't have the
But I mean
lungs
terrifying
for it.
terrifying
They will be
news.
scarred. or
Terrifying news, yes. So how did,
horrendous.
yeah.
Um, Finally, I was given I found a doctor who prescribed me with some penicillin, which healed everything. And then I got my voice back for obvious reasons because the infection went away,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly I got my higher register back. So it was a big shock for me going, oh, hold on, maybe I'm not a mezzo, maybe I'm not in this fission area, even though I've done two quite prominent fission roles. Um, and fortunately, at that time, the university were the university had two societies. One was the symphony orchestra, and another one was the opera society. And it was very lucky that at this point in time, the two societies were collaborating to put on Candide, because obviously the orchestral music is unbelievably incredible. Um, so I started to look at Cunegonde and thought, okay, I can sing this and a bit higher and a bit higher and a bit higher. And it kind of made me rethink everything that had happened over the past year. And that's when I started singing the really high coloratura repertoire, was with Cunegonde, and learning Glitter and Be Gay. Um, and then as soon as I took that to my singing teacher in Prague, she said, you need to learn the Queen of the Night because this is your role. It will be your bread and butter. It's a good money earner. Um, and I had been working on it for maybe, I think, 4 months before I got cast as the Queen in Weimar last summer. Yeah,
Nice.
so that's
How'd
how
that?
we got there.
So how did that go? And do you still feel comfortable that you are in fact a coloratura? Do you, singing that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Singing the Queen of the Night in Weimar is one of the most proudest, that was such awful English, one of the proudest moments of my life so far.
Also, one of the
I,
most dangerous in Germany, singing that role in German
yeah,
in that, in that tradition.
y-
Ooh.
yeah,
So brava.
thank you. It was incredible. I will never forget that feeling. Um, but again, the character is so, I don't know, just so interesting because she's hardly on stage, um, and yet you wait to see her come. That anticipation from that first aria, you've got that da 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 da. It's like, oh my gosh, she's coming, she's coming, she's coming. That's what the three ladies say, and I just find that absolutely fascinating. And the switch between the two arias from that first one of, hold on, I can win this, I can get this back, you're going to make me get this back, to, if you don't kill him, you're not going to be my daughter anymore. And that switch and that desperation of a woman who had everything, has lost everything, and is going to do anything she can to get it back. I think it's such an interesting character to
You know,
play.
it's
I love
a
it.
now that you put it that way, it hadn't really occurred to me before, but it's an heroic female role, very heroic.
Yeah, yeah.
I
She's a
really had not,
tragic hero.
yeah, even as much as I love the show, it hadn't quite clicked that once again Bernstein has given us another powerful female role, a woman who is beaten down, thrown away, killed about 17 times, over and over again. And it's such a
Yeah,
great satirical Voltaire story as well. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about, because we're going to let people have a look at your GoFundMe site. When I put all of this up, the
yeah,
interview and everything, it's all going to go up at performingartsreview.net, and then I'll shove it out to my lists of professional musicians, and I hope this will bring memories back to many who are now comfortably ensconced of this this wonderful thing that's called creating a career, working hard for a career, trying to get it funded. Everybody knows how hard that is, and so on. But give me, if you can, just a kind of an overview of what is going to be the summer program, Berlin Opera Academy Emerging Artist Studio program. How does that work on a day-to-day basis? Just an overview, please.
Yeah, so the Emerging Artist Studio is specifically designed for artists, young artists, who specifically want to create a career in Germany and Austria, and more broadly speaking, Europe, but mainly focused in on Germany. Um, so we wake up every day and we begin with a movement class just to loosen everything up and make sure we're all feeling comfortable. Then we go straight into German lessons. Every morning we will have German lessons. And then the program will follow of vocal coachings, technical singing lessons, um, master classes, some days with everybody in the group, with different directors, vocal coaches, conductors, singing teachers, opera singers, repetitors, everything, anything and anyone who knows anything about um, working in an opera house in Germany and about vocal technique is going to help us on a day-to-day basis. We will also have concerts at the end of the program and maybe halfway through. So the idea is that we bring three roles to prepare full roles while we are at the studio, so that we can start preparing the full rep. So if an opera house says, "Hi, can you sing this role?" You can say, "Yes, I know it." Jump in immediately. That's the idea with it. There is this big business directive that underlies the whole thing. So at a point in the afternoon, we will all be given advice on auditioning for agents and visiting agencies, contacting agents in Germany, um, how to translate your CV into German. And we leave with a German CV and professional standard recordings that we can send to opera houses and other programs, anything like that that can help to further our career. So it is very important, all of the technical vocal work that we do and the performing and the coaching. But the main appeal for this course for me is having that business idea and creating a business um, through singing.
Yeah, it's very, very important that artists, especially these days, uh, excuse me, know how to hang on to their cash flow, basically, and also how to earn cash flow. And speaking of cash
Yeah.
flow, the point here is we're talking 1,950 pounds, I believe, is the figure that you need. It's something
Yes.
like about 2,200 bucks, I think, and just ballparking it in terms of U.S. currency. As you know, my email database is 6 countries altogether. But the point is that, as always, even with, if I may use the term, grad students or advanced young professionals, the cost is hard. It's very, very hard to come up with
Yeah.
when you're struggling to create a career. So I want everyone to understand and to go to the GoFundMe site for Juliet Wallace, and just have a look and read your story, and give some thought to helping in some way, and because it is so important to have a community behind you. Especially at this point in your career. What's going to go on after Berlin this summer? I presume you, I think we mentioned, you of course going back to Prague, but any plans, anything coming up over the horizon that's tantalizing?
The idea of moving to Germany or Austria, both countries are beautiful, is very tempting. I love Prague a lot, but the language is difficult and you can't get very far with "Can I have some tea?" So I would love to move to Germany. That's the idea. I'm about to do my diploma at Trinity in about a month's time, which will mean that I can apply to master's courses and young artist programs in Germany, um, because there are certain qualifications that you need to apply for the conservatoires out there. Um, and basically to keep performing as much as I can. I'm doing an amazing opera at the moment called The Stronger by Hugo Weisgall.
Yes, a Sternberg play. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Talk
um,
about heavy.
yeah. Oh my gosh. But
But
again, great character. That's
yeah,
the allure for me. Anyone that interests me that I can perform and try and translate through music and physically, of course, as well. That's what I want. That's what I love
and
doing.
you are comfortable with contemporary repertoire. You're
I've
eager to learn new music. You probably
Yeah,
read the new
yeah,
Sternberg play. Yeah, so that's good. But I think you know what I think you have, your greatest advantage is theater.
yeah,
Your interesting character. You know what I mean? In developing character, it's so important, especially in opera these days, to be believable. You know,
yeah,
in a singing role.
yeah.
So I think you have a tremendous advantage there, based on the interests that your parents were unhappy with. Am I going to get in trouble or what? Oh,
No,
oh
I
dear.
said it first. It's
Oh, okay,
okay.
okay, okay. All right. Let's. We're at 30 minutes or so. Let's wind it down. Wonderful chat with British coloratura soprano Juliet Wallace, uh, who is already studying at the Conservatoire in Prague, has, as you have heard, lots of ideas, lots of plans. The main thing we're going to be looking at, and I'm going to be pointing my folks to, is your GoFundMe project to raise funding for this summer's Berlin Opera Academy Emerging Artists Studio, a month-long, really intensive training. And it's not about let's put on a show. It's about how do you make a living in the arts? How do you make a living as a singer? What's the deal? When do you get all that stuff? How do you keep track of your money? All that very practical training in addition to a whole other level of sophisticated training as a professional musician. So it sounds like a beautiful program, very, very important for young professionals to have this kind of additional business training and sensibility, as well as a really intensive training that you've just described. I love the idea of morning exercise. I love the idea also of Alexander technique.
Yeah,
I'm a Cal Arts grad, and Cal Arts was and still is a pretty crazy place. But Alexander technique, all that good stuff that people, and posture, and it's the whole body is so important, especially to a
yeah.
singer, but for all of us, actually in all professions. Juliet Wallace, have I forgotten anything?
I don't think so. Thank you very much for speaking to me. It means a lot. Thank
A
you.
great pleasure meeting you, and I'll put this video and information and links to the study program, to the GoFundMe site, all that good stuff. There's a beautiful website for the Berlin Opera Academy.
Yeah,
All that stuff's going to go up so that people can really consider, I can afford to help a little bit here, and it'll just make the crossing of the crossing to an even better professional career the easier, just to have help from people. So,
yeah.
um, many thanks.
Thank
I have a
you.
feeling I'll be talking to you again at some point, perhaps in the
That'd be
back,
great.
in your dressing room, giving an
Oh.
in Lyon. Uh, okay. Lots of fun. Many, many thanks. See
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Okay.